Well, we are here, guys. The official first replay of the NASCAR Pinty Series season is here. And it's going to be at 1 o'clock on TSN. Only the first race, though, of the two from Sunset Speedway are going to be shown. So this is the Frontline workers.
Well, we are here,
I got
guys.
to turn that off. Hold on.
The official first replay of the NASCAR Pinty Series season.
Make sure I have that muted. So the Frontline workers 125, that's going to be the race that you're going to see today. Of course, the lead up for this, having it right before the NASCAR Cup Series event at the Glen, is a great idea. Obviously, there's a lot of people that tune in to see the Cup races. So obviously, this is exciting. This is really, really great that the Pinty Series kind of has their own spot in the lineup nowadays. We're obviously really excited that we were able to go to the event last Sunday. It was a very, very fun event. Unfortunately, it was hampered by rain. We got maybe 7 laps in before the rain kind of fell hardest, and we basically had a 3-hour delay. So the race didn't get started until the very end. But the race, again, like I said, it's going to start at 1 o'clock on TSN. So we've got it up on the big screen here. I've got it on TSN 3. Not sure exactly. I'm just going to check here if it is actually going to be on TSN's main channel, because knowing the track, it's not even on the main channel. It's on, they've got plays of the month and bloopers on TSN 4, which isn't really acceptable in my view. Like that's not respectable to the series. And I understand that they have Motoring TV and they have those other shows that they could put on in its place, but you got to show a little bit more love to the work that Joel, especially because we got to see Joel Robinson's team, and the amount of effort, the amount of work that they put in is remarkable, and they deserve more than just a 1 hour broadcast. And obviously, when you have a 125 lapper, it's not as busy, and there's not as much to cover, and the race is not going to be as long. But speaking of experience, they were all over the place, and we definitely want to see them. We also have kind of a bit of a preview to go over, because next week we are heading back to the track at GP3R. The Grand Prix de Trois Rivières is going to be happening this year, which is fantastic. After having a year off, it sucks not having the events that we used to have. Toronto, obviously, not happening again this year. Jucasa's not happening this year. And then the Western events, there's potentially going to be a very different schedule when we go back next year. There's no real telling what we're going to see. I think double headers could be here to stay. And if they are, is it that we still have a 11 event schedule, or do they eventually go to maybe a 15 race schedule? Do they add more events with double headers, or do they even, they decide maybe not to go out west? There's a lot of tracks they're going to have to make decisions on. And with the uncertainty of Jukasa Motor Speedway right now, potentially that could be an opening that stays. But what happens to Flamborough? What happens to Sunset? Do these racetracks, do they stick around? Obviously, NASCAR in their divisions need to make decisions quicker than normal, because a lot of these facilities, it's going to impact them next year, whether they have NASCAR or not. What we, really would like to see is a schedule out in front of us way ahead of time. Now, obviously, you can do I personally, 125 lappers are fine. You don't need to have pit stops. You don't need to have this. You don't need to have that. Like, there doesn't need to be 300 lappers. But the reality of the matter is, if you take what happened to Dexter Stacy in this race, or even when you have mechanical problems, it affects that second race. So if you break something that you can't fix at the track, then you're out of luck. There is no fixing it. And that's going to be a bit of a problem, obviously, for race teams that really want to go throughout the entire season. It's just not a reality, unfortunately, and I really do want to make sure that we give kind of our thanks and gratitude to a lot of the people that made this happen. There was a lot of belief that we were not racing. I mean, we had chalked it up to like we had basically said at 7:30, like, okay, they need to just call it. Like we're waiting around. It's cold. It's damp. It didn't look at all like we were going to get any racing in. And the fact of the matter is, the people at NASCAR, they held on. Sunset Speedway, they held on. They did about, it felt like 40 laps to dry the track with the cars. And so that waiting was a little bit intense, waiting around. And, a lot of the crowd was antsy. There's a bit of people that left, but primarily a good chunk of people stuck around. They stayed. I was made to believe that they only had until 8:00 to keep the race track running, and that the race could only be until 8:00. But that wasn't the case. They were able to get a full field in essentially both races. We were down one car for the second race, but this series again needs the support. It needs the help of fans to be paying attention, doing stuff like this, putting on events, whether it's virtual or in person, trying to help those companies that come aboard, help the race teams. They need that support so that eventually we can get to a point where we have where you have memorabilia. We've seen Kevin Lacroix in the past. We've seen DJ Kennington, Andrew Ranger, like they have had die casts made, Scott Steckley as well. But the reality is it is so expensive, and you have to have so many pre-orders to be able to actually sell a die cast that that's just not a reality right now. But we're talking to small things. We're talking t-shirts, hats, decals. All these things are what fans want. They're things that the teams would have to spend money on to be able to produce. So obviously we're ecstatic that the racing is going to happen this season. Trois Rivières, for example, is a track that we're accustomed to seeing on the schedule, and without Jukasa, without Toronto, it is the highlight of this year. CTMP, yeah, you can always say CTMP is kind of up there, but the reality of the situation is Trois Rivières is the highlight for a lot of the French drivers. And I think it means so much to a lot of them. Just look at the Dumoulins and how much it's like a Daytona 500 for the Dumoulins. DC competition is going to be strong. It sounds like they're going to have potentially 4 cars at that track. LP Dumoulin pretty well confirmed that his brother JF is going to race. And at least we know another car is being prepped at the track that he didn't mention who was driving it, but he did mention that there would be another car. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe JF Laberge is going to end up running. I know JF was supposed to run the 80, but now they're talking like Raphael Lessard is going to be, he's confirmed to be in the 80 car with Napa Auto Parts for the race at Trois Rivières. So that automatically makes you think that, JF Laberge then doesn't have a seat. Well, JF has a existing relationship. He used to drive Dumoulin Competition cars. So I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up driving for them. There's other names that are coming back for this weekend that we haven't seen so far in 2021. Jocelyn Facto will drive the 77. I know he's very excited. And of course, the returning Ray Cornemanche Jr. getting an opportunity to run with EHR. I mean, he's ecstatic as well. It is awesome to see that you're going to get the most popular driver returning to the series after a couple of years off. And he's in a car that performed exceptionally well at Sunset Speedway with Shea Gemmell behind the wheel. So there's a lot that we can definitely be excited about. I think you're going to see some names that aren't going to be at this racetrack that were at Sunset. I don't think you're going to see Chantal Kalika. It's like quite a bit of ways for her to go, especially if there's not guarantee about a ride for her. Shea Gemmell, I don't think we're expecting to see him, of course, because he's running the short tracks in Ontario. Not only that is you have to kind of look as well to like Brent Weller, a really new team. They didn't even have a 61 for their roof at Sunset Speedway, so they borrowed a 51. But Brent Weller, we don't know what's going to happen with that 61 if they're going to make that trek. It seems like a very long way for them to go when they're just starting out. But I mean, obviously, there's some other names that we could potentially see ending up at Trois Rivières. Obviously, if we go down the line, okay, JF Dumoulin, the 04, we can definitely expect that he's going to be there. I mean, this is in one of his highlights that he will run. TJ Renamato, Brett Taylor, we can definitely expect to see those guys there. The 7 that Pete Shepard ran for Jacobs Racing in that last event at Sunset Speedway is not the same car that is going to be running, but it is the same team. Jacobs Motorsports is going to run Jacobs Racing with Kyle Marcelli's standout in IMSA, in road course racing in general. Pirelli World Challenge, I believe he runs in as well. So Kyle Marcelli is going to be really good. They're going to run a Ford, which is interesting because we didn't see any Fords at Sunset. There was none, and we weren't expecting to see any. So this is going to be, it's an older car, but Marcelli is going to drive the number 7. Potentially it could be very, very good, but we really don't know. This is the top team. We have to remember this. This is a 2-time champion with Andrew Ranger. And Jacobs Motorsports has kind of been very quiet over the last couple of years, but from what we saw at Sunset Speedway and what you're going to see coming up, is Pete Shepard was very impressive in that number 7 APC car. Obviously this is different. This is going to be their Ford, effort, but I think that you'll definitely be very impressed with Kyle Marcelli as long as they can get off to the right start. Then you got the number 8, like we mentioned, Ray Cordemosh Jr. is going to drive there. No idea kind of if there's going to be anybody else in between there, but we can expect DJ Kennington, Alex Taglioni, Trayton Lapsovich. All those guys are going to stay the same there. Marc-Antoine Cameron in the 22. In addition, Luc Lesage is going to drive the 25. Now, this is a car that's a Chevrolet. I have no idea what team this is with. We really kind of weren't sure who they're partnering up with. He's got some sponsorship on there. Actually, he's got a Toyota dealership on his Chevy, but it'll be very interesting to see who kind of the partnership is with. If it's with Joey McComb, if it's with Dumoulin Competition, if it's with Kevin Lacroix's team. We really have no idea who it's with, but there is definitely a good contingent of cars that we got. That, like I said, the 25 of Luc Lesage. If we continue down, we're not expecting any additions all the way up to the 37, which is Simon Deonvienne. He is pumped and he is ready to go. He posted on Facebook yesterday a photo of his car being worked on, and it's been a long time for Simon, since 2019. So it'd be nice to see him back in the Castrol 37. I believe he's running a Ford as well. I think that's with, again, a Jacobs partnership. So that'll be very interesting. Don't know yet what we're going to see, if we're going to see David Michaud. He typically runs the Quebec races, but I've kind of been after him a couple of times this year, just checking in on him and seeing if he's going to run, and he wasn't sure. So we don't expect to see the Klutz, the 42 or the 59. Gary confirmed that they are going to be at CTMP, but not expecting them at Trois Rivières, which is unfortunate because I think they would have performed really well. They're really good road racers, but at the end of the day, that's a long trek. And if they don't have that sponsorship, it's pretty tough for them to be able to go out and compete as they would really at CTMP. And we know how good Gary Clute is at CTMP. He's one of the top contenders. And we know that he is easily one of the best to compete. So continuing on there, we obviously would know about the The 61, like we said, we're not sure what's happening with them. 64, Mark Dilley, we can expect that he's going to be at Trois Rivières. No, not expecting David Thorndike in the 67. They're typically only a CTMP car. And then we get to the 70s, 74, Kevin Lacroix. We can expect that he's going to be very good at Trois Rivières. He was a little quiet at Sunset Speedway. We could have expected a little bit more from him. And unfortunately, the second race, you'll see kind of what happens to him. But then we continue. Not confirmed what's going to happen with that 75 if Matthew Kingsbury is going to be driving at Trois Rivières. We can expect him at maybe Chaudier and at iCar, but not sure if he's going to be on the road events. Kingsbury did run some of the races last year on the ovals, but it doesn't appear that Kingsbury, when I reached out to Kevin, he said that Kingsbury was not going to be at Sunset. So perhaps it is only going to be a Quebec event for Matthew Kingsbury. And of course, we mentioned the 77, Jocelyn Facteau, the 80 with Raphael Lessard and Napa Auto Parts, Teach Chevrolet. That should be very fun to see him on a road course. He wasn't as good on the road courses when he was in the series. I think he did run Trois Rivières before and he wasn't first, obviously LP Dumoulin, I did forget to mention him. LP is going to be probably the favorite, along with, of course, the 51 of Andrew Ranger and the 52 of Alex Gannett. I think all of those guys are going to be very impressive. I think Andrew, his second race at Sunset didn't go the way he wanted. He's obviously going to be a little bit ticked. And we know Andrew Ranger is all about wins and is seriously a contender when anytime you go to a road course. So obviously you've got those names there. I mentioned obviously Mark Dilley is going to be there, Kevin Lacroix, Jocelyn Facteau, Raphael Lessard, Larry Jackson, of course, O'Neill Electric. That's a full-time effort this season. So he will be at Trois Rivières, the 84. We will also see Dexter Stacy in the 92. He's running a full season this year. And a bit of a surprise, if maybe people didn't know, Matty Scannell will drive a second car for Larry Jackson's team. The other surprise is, and it was confirmed to me yesterday, that Sam Fellows, Ron Fellows' son, will actually be competing at Trois Rivières as well. Now, in terms of what car, Sam has been driving for Jim Bray in the Ontario Sportsman Series. So I wouldn't say that it's a surprise if we see him in Jim Bray's 98, or maybe they change it up to the 56. The 56 is what he's running on the Sportsman Series. The 98, of course, run with Chantal Kalika at Sunset Speedway. So this could, we haven't really seen a full season from Jim Bray's equipment, but Jim puts in such a great effort, and they had curb records on the car, a legendary sponsor if there was one. And it was awesome to see that that we're going to see potentially upwards of 20 cars, more than 20 cars at Trois Rivières. Normally, that is what we see. Trois Rivières is one of the biggest races on the schedule. So you can't really count that out. It's always going to be a marquee event. It always will. And we're really hoping to get out there. This season's probably not going to happen for us, just because we want to be able to go with no restrictions, go in and enjoy it. It's a lot of travel as well, right? So for us coming from Ontario, having to go to Quebec, obviously we'd want to do like a 2-week trip. If they do eventually keep it where you're going to see the Trois Rivières event along with iCar and Chaudier within 2 weeks, I'm very curious what teams are going to do. Are they going to just try and stay out in Quebec for 2 weeks and try maybe work and lease out a place to work on the car? It just seems like a bunch of unnecessary travel. If you're not, there's a lot that we could potentially see, because there's going to be 3 events so close together. Maybe we will see a lot of guys carry over that maybe wouldn't have run iCar and wouldn't have run Chaudier. There's obviously going to be a lot of surprises, because we always see them when we go to Quebec. There's obviously some names that, would be awesome to see in the future. But as for right now, I think we wouldn't be out of the possibility of having 24, 25 cars for Trois Rivières. I think, obviously, like we said before, like this is for Quebec drivers, this is their event. This is their marquee event. This is what they like. And this is where they want to do the best and perform in front of their home crowd. One of the things that, is always nice about that track is there's always something to watch. There's always some excitement. Now, I've never actually been to the track before. I think it's still one of the, like, if NASCAR were to go to a street event, this is the event that they need to go to. Regardless of functionality, I understand CTMP. I understand Toronto being kind of the mecca of where they want to potentially race. And we know Montreal, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, as well as is a road facility that they've gone on before. But for a full-on street circuit, this event is one of the best. And potentially with having a field that is going to expand by potentially 5 to 6 cars next week, that's where you want to see it. You want to have a field that's big. I mean, we go back to the first race for the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series at Montreal at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and there was easily 30, I think there was like 33 cars at that event. And we're far away from that right now, but we obviously have fans that want to see this series succeed. They want to see their Quebec drivers, and we want to see that as well. There's a lot of love that we need to give this series if we want it to continue. We're losing facilities left, right, and center. There is obviously the track at St. Eustache that we lost in the offseason. We don't know what's happening with Jukasa. And we were at Sunset Speedway, and it is close to town now. And that, I know they've talked about having complaints about noise. And that's worrisome because in Ontario, we don't have tracks. And let's be honest here, we don't want to have every event on a road course. That's just not reality. The other thing too is functionality. If your closest track is 3 hours away, a lot of people won't make the effort to go. As sad as that is, it is the reality. There isn't a ton of ability to get there. I mean, for myself, I talk about somebody that doesn't drive, and I mean, it's nice that they do have a live stream this year. This is something that this series needs. It needs it so much because there's a lot of people that watch from out of province. You have people from out west that are watching Brett Taylor, that are watching Chantal Kalika. You have people, from out east watching their Quebec drivers. We don't have the ability to do what, say, the Cup Series does. And as we head to more and more of the schedule this season, you're going to find that the majority of the field is Ontario and Quebec. So it makes sense that they keep that schedule for next year. But we do know, like Chantal Kalika, her sponsor has already re-upped for 2022. And we definitely want to see her on a full-time basis. I think that the series needs as many full-timers as possible. But again, as we mentioned, it's about functionality. It's about costs. And there is a lot of it that the race teams have to put together. I mean, we saw it before that you have a lot of work ahead of you if you're going to be in the NASCAR Pinty series. What I hope that we'll be eventually able to see is maybe some efforts to combine with other products. We've seen the APC series. I think the APC series is great. I think that what we need to do, though, is combine. And they were looking at doing that until obviously the pandemic continued to cause some issues this year. They were looking at combining the weekends and having the Friday potentially or a Saturday be the APC series and then the Sunday be the Pinty series. Well, listen, if you want to have a lot of tickets sold, you're putting both on the same day. It can be done. One of the problems that we're looking at is a lot of the tracks, their events are late. And I understand that they want to do night races and all that, but it's a long day for a lot of teams. So if you at least start the event at 12 o'clock, if you, well, I don't know, if you have at least some effort put in, you can have a schedule where you have 3 or 4 different series in the Pinty series, especially with there only being 125 laps for one day. If they're going to do 2 races, you start the event with the Pinty series, and then you finish it with the Pinty series. Give the teams a ton more time to work on their cars. They weren't given a lot. I think it was half an hour to work on their cars. Now, obviously, that's not a huge problem because these cars, they can typically go 200, 300 laps. That's not an issue. But what we'd like to be able to see is cars that can be repaired by having a full day's worth put into it. I think if we got to Sunset Speedway, you had the qualifying done 10 o'clock, practice at 9, qualifying at 10, 12 is the race. And that's the first race done. Impound race, you do nothing after. You can make some repairs if need be, but you go to the back. It can be done. It really can. And then I think you've got way more people invested because they're going to go see multiple events. For all about it, it's ticket value. If you're going to pay $50, I want to see more than just one race. I definitely want to see more than just the Pinty series. We were lucky enough to see Super Stocks because they were rained out, but if we didn't get anything, I would have been a little bit sour about that. It's not what you want to go and spend money on is for one event. You've really got to put those efforts together. And Super Stocks as well. That's a hot ticket event, but a weekly series event as well. I think we've talked about before the Ontario Sportsman Series. We really want them to be a part of it. I think that the Sportsman Series, when it was with NASCAR, was very successful because you also had a lot of those names that maybe you wouldn't have seen compete in a lower division, but because they had the option to, they did. We saw like guys like Mike Alguire and Sean McGlynn and Chad McGlynn, Steve Monroe, Brad Graham. They all ran that event, and it was really exciting because a lot of those names were kind of guys that we would see in NASCAR, but they were able to run in both. So if they are able to do something like that and really help the Ontario Sportsman Series, I know Sportsman is a little bit low in terms of car count. It would be a good way. Again, if you do something like that with Super Stocks and build them all in together, I mean, if the car itself is not the difference, what does it hurt, right? Put them all together, have a Super Stock or a Ontario Sportsman Series event in between the Pinty's event. Allow those guys to shine, get them that opportunity. They're like NASCAR light in a way, and Pinty Series light. So we're heading to Trois Rivières, but we're almost ready to go here with the NASCAR Pinty Series, the first race of the 2021 season. We're just finishing up on TSN here, the misplay of the day. So we're going to get started here to see it. I'll probably have the audio on just a little bit, see if I can see if any of us are on it. But obviously, Joel Robinson, Fuel Media Lab, Adam Ross, Dave Bradley, Clinton Jeffrey, Kendra Adams, Todd Lewis, all do a great job. And we're really excited to be able to watch this event with you guys today. Obviously, we don't have a huge crowd tuning in, but hopefully some other people will join in while the racing starts. And you can always come back and rewatch it. There's one thing about this is that with TSN, you should be able to see some replays. They normally show a couple replays throughout the week, even though it's like this is the first showing of it. We'll potentially see some more. So we'll see what we get here. See if hopefully it's got a great video intro, and typically it does. Interesting that they're going to start with it when it was about to start raining. Interesting. In this one, they didn't feature Brandon Watson and Sam Fellows.
This is the Frontline Workers 125. Welcome to the first of 11 stops of the 2021 schedule. I'm Dave Bradley. Along with me is my good friend Adam Ross. Don Lewis and Kendra Adams will be patrolling the pits for us here today. But Adam, here we go. 11 stops of the 2021 schedule. We've got 4 on road and street circuits and 7 on ovals.
7 on roads, 7 on ovals is a definite plus.
We go back to 2 facilities we haven't visited since 2017. The Roval and Icar, just north of Montreal. And we go to Delaware Speedway here in London, Ontario. The new
First time since 2017. I like that with Delaware. Delaware is going to be a big deal. Definitely. See if they're going to announce anything interesting.
But we've got a brand new team to the NASCAR Pinty series as well, and one that makes its way north from North Carolina. That's Rickware Racing.
This is a really big deal. We're talking about a team over that owns Cup teams, IndyCar teams, IMSA teams.
And that 51 car is beautiful. And the 52 for that matter.
Andrew Ranger and Alex Guinnett.
And of course, we'll touch on the other team announcements over the course of this race, but our broadcast team has grown as well as we introduce you to Kendra Adams along pit lane. We say hello. Hi, Kendra.
Great to be back here. And isn't it great to be back at the racetrack? These Sunset Speedway fans have been watching local stock car racing for the past month here at Sunset Speedway. And today they'll get to see the NASCAR Pinty race. And I'm sure these fans will be cheering on local boys Mark Dilley and Trey Plasvich. Track owner TJ Renamato is also behind the wheel of his number 2 Chevrolet.
Track owner. Team owner.
Thanks, Kendra. One of the drivers we'll see today.
Man, guys, that Pete Shepard car. Wow. Beautiful.
18 cars to qualifying times earlier today. Starting on pole, it is the number 7 ABC Chevrolet of Pete Shepard, the 3rd career pole in the NASCAR Pinty series.
Yeah, he hasn't been around for a while, but Pete Shepard definitely was fast. Trayton was fast. This will be interesting. Well, it's definitely, guys, when you tune in to see the command wasn't the most enthusiastic. Well, yeah, you see the commercials for all these consistent sponsors. Obviously, Quick. Very nice to see them. Dave and Frank were at the track on Sunday. We're so ecstatic, both of them. And of course, Tony Spiteri from Pinty's. We didn't see him until the end, but Pinty's had their own VIP section, so they were taken in the race with the guys from O'Neill, Electric Supply, Leland, NTN Bearings, which had a huge amount of people there. When you go to Quebec, you definitely will see a little bit more. You'll see the GM Paillet guys, WeatherTech Canada will be there as well. It'd be interesting to see who we will see on JF Dumoulin's car, because as far as we know, Spectra Premium is not on the 04. So maybe they're just with Group Belmar. I'm not sure, but we saw the kind of the car at LP Dumoulin had a video that he put up and only had the 04 on it, didn't have any sponsorship or decals on it yet. So they're working on something. I'm sure Jessica Menard does a hell of a job with the PR for Dumoulin competition. They do some great work, and you absolutely love seeing them. Those the friendliest guys out there. I can see myself, I think. So in this event, we are actually the Stickers and Scuffs crew. We are actually up near right beside the flag stand at the very back. So not into turn one, but I mean, you'll see me if it shows it. What I love about it is yeah, they go right down to the business of the race. The only problem is that, you know, you don't get to learn a lot more about the drivers, about the teams. Yeah.
Always exciting at the start of a new season. The drivers are strapped in. Now let's send it down trackside with Matt Jeffels from the South Simcoe Police. Start your engine.
It was a typical police response, not very enthusiastic. Nice inboard with Trayton with Chantel. That's cool. Oh, I like that they had an onboard with her. Very, very nice camera shot. Love the starting grid graphics. Very nice. And they've got updated photos, which is good too. Andrew doesn't have a he doesn't have a proper racing suit with his sponsors on it, so Larry and Shea Gemmel looks so upset in his photo. Alex Gannett. There's our girl Chantel and Brent Weller. So I think they're going to show the first 7 laps, and I guess they're going to show the rain delay. Got to definitely thank E3 Spark Plugs for coming back, supporting the series.
As we salute first responders, let's talk about a couple of our own, like Larry Jackson, driver.
Nice.
He's also a Mississauga fire captain and has spent much of his time over the last 18 months helping others.
Got our Stickers and Scuffs logo on TV.
Jason White, Jason is scheduled to be racing here today. Instead, he's at home in Sunbeams, British Columbia, being on the fire response team, helping protect those who have been ravaged by the BC wildfire.
Some great characters. I usually say characters in the NASCAR.
So the first, if I remember correctly, the first little bit was nuts. Like, yeah, and you see the back of the field was not ready to go. They were asleep. And luckily the action here is just incredible. I mean, it's the first time we've ever been to Sunset Speedway. And actually, we were up here with a fellow racer who had joined us with the crowd, and you see the rain on the windshield. It was raining pretty good. Unfortunately, it did. It rained pretty bad for a little bit, but like this is nuts, this action. Yeah, Trayton. So good. I mean, they said 4 laps on this, but it was closer to 7 laps. Like they kept around going for two more laps, and then they were just like, yeah, it's bad. And it sucked because the field was like extremely packed up. And the first 14 cars were in one pack. And that didn't stop. Like that 14 car pack was pretty much what we saw all night in both races. It was awesome. There wasn't really that what we've seen in the past for say like there's a car or two that's so off the pace. That was not the case. These cars were all, I mean, even Rinamato, who, you know, for his first couple of years was really kind of off the pace. That wasn't the case here. They were very, very impressive. Yeah, so it sucked because what they're not going to show you is how long that this rain delay was. It was 3 hours, and which sucked. But man, it was such a good event. The track is amazing. You definitely, if you've never been, actually, look at going to Sunset Speedway because the track you can't. Yeah, there's a bunch of the umbrellas out. It was certainly wet. We were worried because at 7:30, we were looking like it was not going to happen. I was lucky enough that Chantel Kalika came out of her car and came and say hi to us. Larry as well. They went and did some stuff with their sponsors because their sponsors were out in the VIP section. Chantel actually just came to say hi to the Bun Sons. Obviously, we're big fans of hers, and she and Larry both ran our decal on their car. And it was awesome to see that. First off, to see our car on TV or our logo on TV was awesome. And, we really, if we can get a bit more love from down south, there's no telling what could happen for this series. Obviously, Rick Ware is awesome with sponsors. And he's got Andrew, he's got Alex. Alex kind of brings his own sponsorship, so it's not really Rick's doing, but Rick really worked to get Andrew back full time. And I think what you'll see this season is, this first two races, Andrew was fast, but he didn't seem like his normal self out there. I guess it was just maybe we wasn't as aggressive as I guess we were used to seeing, but at the same time, he didn't really need to be because, he did get aggressive early in this race. He got bumped by somebody who then bumped into him and caused a spin. But, I mean, man, every time they show that Trois Rivières, I just get so pumped up to see them. Next week, guys, Trois Rivières, and we're going to be seeing it. And that's to say the field should be bigger for that event. It typically is a little bit bigger. So I'd say we would probably see 24, max, maybe 25 cars. It's not back in the good old days where we could see like 30, 33 cars out there. It's just not the reality. When we had the Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, you also had the Xfinity series there too, right? So there's a lot more excitement around it. But the graphics look really good. So far, I've been very impressed with what I see here. And I mean the amount of time that they were around this, driving around the track trying to get it dry, seemed like ages. It was forever. But we were so lucky that the rain did kind of move. Let's see here from Kendra Adams. Nice. I wondered who Alana was. Wow, Mike Curb is the team owner. Sam Fellows will be okay. That's huge. Huge news. It's so cool to get the sun to come out. God, we were cold. It was rainy. The mosquitoes were out. Beautiful. God, I can't believe it's 17 years old, man, leading the field here. He was so good. But of course, we can always help and do more, try and get more sponsors interested. I remember watching these first couple of laps, and Stacy in the 92, man, his car was a handful. But one of the things we really liked was Chantel Kalika. She took it really easy. She didn't go crazy right off the start. And this is the thing we talked about is the field is like, yeah, it's in one big line, but nobody is off the pace where maybe we kind of would have seen in the past. You'd have a car that's like way out to lunch. Wasn't the case. And I mean, some of these names, like we did not expect to see Brent Weller in the 61. Yeah, there we go. There's Stacy, and Stacy had an awful start couple of races. Like it was, that car looked so hard to drive. I'm not sure if we found out what happened, if he had contact with somebody or if something ended up breaking in the car that caused him to hit the wall. But God, these cars look so beautiful. It's tough to go out and see no Jason Hathaway though. And no O2 for Kerry Mix either. But this was the closeness. Like it was like this all night long. And you didn't really expect it. You know, Lassard started towards the back. Beautiful cars. Like they're so hot. The Dodges, the Chevys. We didn't have any Fords in this race. We still don't have Toyota in the series. Maybe we'll get them eventually. I've heard that there was attempts to try and get Toyota. Obviously, if you do get Toyota, you got to try and get somebody like a Kyle Busch to help come in and partner with somebody. I mean, Kyle's been one of the biggest supporters of this series, whether you think about it or not. He's always partnered with DJ, and they've had his drivers. Toyota's had their development drivers with DJ Kennington at CTMP. Chandler Smith with more, earlier they've kind of shifted to 22 racing, but Noah Gregson drove 28. They've had the Dillons drove in the past. So, I mean, there's Riley Herbst drove the 28. So you typically do see that at CTMP. Now, obviously this year will be different because the trucks aren't going to CTMP. Whether or not you will see somebody like a Corey Heim or, Ty Gibbs, I mean, you would think there'll be somebody that would be potentially, but the problem is that Ty's more than likely going to go to Xfinity. And I do wish I was still there. I get just the sounds, the smells, the sights. It's cool to hear Joe. We were sitting beside him, so we didn't actually get to hear that ourselves. I don't know if they're going to be able to, if they're going to show it, but the crowd really made a lot of noise when Pete Shepard or Trayton Lapsovich took the lead.
I see this all night long. It's not terribly difficult to get a nose beneath someone ahead of you. It's very challenging to clear that car. Pete Shepard just did so. Move to take over the lead.
Pete Shepard looks like Lapsovich and Jeffrey being great trained here. Let's see if he does tuck in behind the 51 of Andrew Ranger.
Just ahead of Alex Tagley.
I mean, you guys, series is so damn good. We just need those more supporters, guys. Just need more. You can just get a little bit more funding, get name. Just think if you could get more names in this series, like a James Hinchcliffe to come in and race in Toronto, to get a some more road course racers, Kuna Whitmer or Nick Whitmer, Samantha Tan, Megan Giltz from the 1600 series, Austin Riley from FEL. And then, of course, you've got countless short track names. And even just seeing some of the names full time, like Chantel Kalika, be awesome to see her full time. I remember that. Right in front of the leaders when Amato went around.
Watching his 80 car on the racetrack. Rafael Lazard behind the wheel. Let's take a look at the left here screen. And yeah, really sailed the thing a little too deep in the corner, right in front of Pete Shepard. He wanted to stay on the lead lap, couldn't hold on to the back end of that race car.
Feeling the pressure, the leaders coming up from behind. Pit stop time, and one of the cars coming down pit lane is the 92 of Dexter Stacy. And you'll notice the paint scheme is every child matters on the hood of that 92 machine racing aware.
And of course, Dexter Stacy and his person from Cottabato, Quebec.
Well, Skins, you know what? I'll be honest, I hadn't really thought about it. They kind of were disappointing. I'm not going to lie that the Watkins Glen races the past 2 days weren't really that interesting. It was just because coming off of watching the Pinty series and being so into it, it just wasn't the same. But the difference is, Skins, is that there isn't I don't feel there is favorites anymore in the Cup Series on road courses. Like you see, obviously Chase Elliott's probably the top of the line. But like names like Truex and Kyle Busch and Keselowski and Logano, there's no such thing as road course ringers in Cup anymore, which sucks because I think that's what we would want. I think more people are interested in seeing that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I got a feeling like we're gonna see somebody like Hamlin or a Truex win. I don't want to be boring, but it seems like that's what's gonna happen. Obviously, like we talk. I mean, how many times have people talked about, oh, Michael McDowell's a really good road racer, but then he does absolutely nothing in the race. Like I would, if I'm gonna pick a shock pick, I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez. He got some road racing under his belt. And remember, he's got Justin Marks as his team owner. And Justin Marks is a very underrated road racer, but a very good road racer as well. So I wouldn't be shocked. Now, if we get some weather, which, I mean, right now in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada, it looks a little iffy that we're going to get some rain. I don't know what the schedule, like in terms of weather. I'm more excited, honestly, Skins, for IndyCar at Nashville than I am for Cup at Watkins Glen. I would like to see them actually run the boot. I think that will be more interesting. I think that they've done the same deal for so many years. They've got to change things up. I'm not sure who do you have for it, Skins, but we got the race back on here. So cool to have our logo on 2 cars. Probably could have had a couple more, but you don't want to piss anybody off. You don't want to, insult anybody, or, that's not what we're there for, right? I don't know if this is going to be the restart that I get really upset because of what happens, but there's a couple restarts where stuff happened and you're just like, oh, are you kidding me? And of the 2 races, this was the more chaotic one. So just be prepared. You haven't seen anything yet. And Shea Gemmelman, he was so good. So impressive. I was just saying, you need to get like those guys like J.R. Fitzpatrick into this series again, full time. Like, you need names like that. And seeing how good Shea was, I mean, that's proof that those APC guys, there's a ladder system you can get from the late model division up to a stock car division. Definitely. But it's the one thing about it is that there wasn't, like, we're at lap 45 of 125. Lassard is not led yet. Martin Truex and Harvick. Yeah, I don't know, man. I Skins, I want to say that I'm a big fan of Watkins Glen, but the reality is I find both the road course races that they have in the Cup Series are very lame. So having Road America this year was actually nice of a bit of a change. They need to change things up. It's too stagnant with their road course. So they go to like street course. Could be very interesting. Hell, they go to like a 3rd mile like this. Obviously, Cup would never do it, but this track, damn, so good. I know there's going to be some. Yeah, there it is. It's when Cameron went around and almost got into Kalika. There's our stickers and scuffs on twice. It was interesting because when we got the post race, I felt like Cameron and Lapsovich made like words with each other. Oh, 2 favorite tracks on the schedule. Okay, well, I'll tell you right away that the Cup Series, not even close to Pinty Series. Pinty's tracks, all of them over Cup Series. I would have said Bristol, but they ruined it. They ruined it back in 2007, Skins, when they did the progressive banking. It was awful. Yeah, this is when DJ had his trouble. And we were shocked. Like, we were not expecting this. I know DJ had trouble back in the first race a couple years ago, and it just derailed his whole season. Skins, I don't know if I have a favorite anymore. I don't feel like any of them are really unique and interesting to me. As awful as that might sound, they're not. I feel like what would happen if Cup went to a real short track, and not just like what we're saying with like Martinsville or Bristol or Richmond. Like, to me, Richmond, I think is, you were saying that was one of your favorites. I hate that track now. And that's the problem, is it's not the track. I don't think it's the cars. It's the way that they run. I mean, they're not like these Pinty's cars where they can just they're hard to drive. They slide all over the place and they're fun to watch, but it was they're just there's too much that I don't like about the Cup Series now. I feel like Xfinity and trucks is good, but again, same situation that we talked about previously on this podcast was you got to go to make things unique again in those series. Go to a Memphis, go to a like I know it's not around anymore, but go to like a Mansfield or a Nazareth, those types of tracks again, because you have to make it unique. This isn't unique going to the same tracks for the two series. It's just not. So, but here we go, back to green. Man, Shepard had a piece. He was so good. And that car is beautiful too. And I think this is where and see, that's what's so interesting about this race is that Lassard made a lot of his passes on the high side. His car was so good on the high side. Yeah, Trayton, man, he was so good. Yeah, DJ. I'm all for it, Skins. Honestly, we knew that Atlanta needed something done to it. I get that the drivers don't want it changed, but they have to be realistic. The track was crap in terms of its surface. Like obviously they like it, but I don't particularly mind changes. I think that at the end of the day, here we go. I don't know if they got a replay of this one because I didn't really get to see what happened to Dexter. I think the suspension broke, but I can't tell if he got into somebody or no, but it turned him dead right. So I don't know. Hey, Maddie, how are you? Yeah, it was tough, man, because Dexter, we had talked with him before at the beginning of the race, and he was excited, he was happy to be there, and his car was just, it seemed pretty, quote, evil. You see the wheel is turning the completely wrong direction. So, but yeah, Skins, I don't know. Atlanta is not one of my favorite tracks anymore. It's not as interesting as it used to be. I would have been more okay if they did go to the old configuration. But again, this is the problem that I have is that NASCAR solution is road and street courses or, fixing our already existing tracks. They haven't made the change that they need to make, which is going to those really short tracks. And they have to do it for the Xfinity and the Truck Series. They have to. You've got to go back to what was successful. Many people tuned into the Truck Series because it was unique. It's not unique anymore. The Xfinity Series is not unique anymore. It's just not. I'm doing good, buddy. Matt, doing good. I'm loving watching the Pinty's race. It's so awesome to see it back on the schedule, and we're obviously really excited for the live stream next week at Trois Rivières. Probably looking 22, maybe 24 cars. Some new drivers. Obviously, Sam Fellows is going to drive for Jim Bray this year, and it's actually a Mike Curb owned car now, which is interesting that they confirmed that today, that it's actually the Jim Bray prepared car, but Mike Curb actually is bought or is the listed owner. So that would be huge if we actually have Curb records on the car full time, because that's now we got two Cup guys, or not Cup, but down south team kind of owners coming up to be a part of it, but that's huge, obviously. It you know, I at the end of the day, has this season been more enjoyable than previous? I can't say it has. And has the racing been better? Do they think they should bring back a truck like a track like Knoxville to the? No, I don't. I don't think so, Skins. And the reason being is I don't feel that that's necessary. We saw how the trucks did this year. It was a complete shit show. And I would be more interested, like I told you before, I'd be more interested in them going to a Sunset Speedway, a real short track, and making a real go of it, because they haven't. Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol aren't traditional short tracks. They're still like stadiums. And I get that they have their opinions on what is a proper and what isn't a proper short track. I believe this is going to be where we get to see Lapsevich get turned, unfortunately. He gets into Andrew right there. Yeah, here we go. And then Ranger, I couldn't remember who gets into Ranger, if it's Lacroix. Man, though, the racing was so good here that you can't tell me that the trucks and Speedworks, my buddy, Simon, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you're catching the Pinty Series race right now on TSN if you are able to. Obviously, guys, if you can't, typically there's a YouTube channel called the Ottoman Empire that normally uploads these, so you'll be able to catch them afterwards. We were actually at this race, and it was phenomenal. It was one of the best events I've been to. Yeah, but even Matt, again, Martinsville is the closest, but at the same time, I feel like they try to manufacture a lot of that. It doesn't, it's not what it used to. And I don't know if it's just the cars are just, I don't know, man. It seems like they're just, honestly, they seem annoying because the drivers get whatever they want. They complain, oh, we got a caution. What the caution for on this one? Who was the caution for? It was debris, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, it was Mark Antoine's car. Yeah, you did, Matty. Yeah, I'm pumped because we're going to see more cars at Trois Rivières. They basically confirmed already on this that Sam Fellows, Ron Fellows' son, is going to drive at Trois Rivières for Jim Bray, and it's more than likely he'll be at CTMP as well. So that'll be great. Oh, it was Dilly and Cameron is a rivalry I'm okay with. That seems like it'll be fun. But I mean, I'm hoping that this season is going to be interesting. Obviously, you know that we're all about the Pinty series on this channel, but we I think this is the restart that gets a little crazy with Trayton, unfortunately. Luc Lesage also be at Trois Rivières, Jocelyn Fecto at Trois Rivières, Simon Deonvienne at Trois Rivières. So we got at least another additional 4 cars. The only one I think that we might not see that was in this first race is Brent Weller. So I think, yeah, right there. Oh, I was so bummed. Andrew got into Pete, who then got into Trayton, and it spun him around. Yeah, Ranger gets into Shepherd and then gets into Trayton. Then Dilly just ran over Gannett, which is awesome because if you got like, they probably won't show that there was a lot of angry people at the end of the second race. The end of the first race, I think Camarand and Lapsevich maybe weren't too impressed with each other, but I'm not sure if just Camarand couldn't really turn into his box properly. But Trayton certainly wasn't happy because he came back. I think he was pointing to Andrew Ranger. Well, and that's guys, what that's all about. Like this series is, it needs to have live streams. Like it has to happen. If you want this series to be successful, they have to have this, because the reality is that there's people from all over the world that would like to watch, and having a live stream just makes it a lot more easy. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure, Maddie, if you would know this, but did you need to, like, obviously, do you have cable? Did you need to log in to be able to watch? Because that also is a bit of an issue. Like, obviously, what we need is to have more people be able to watch it, even if they're not subscribed to TSN, because some people don't have it, right? So, but it was on MAV TV. If you guys have MAV TV in the US or internationally, it would be on there as well. So today, though, like I said, I hate to say that I'm more interested in the Watkins Glen race if there's weather, and that's kind of the main story of it now, is that the car is just, and I don't know, like there was talk like they're going to be delayed on the new car for next year because apparently it's not as safe as they were originally talking about. But I would love it if the racing next year does even the playing field, and that Brad Keselowski, and that, say, Roush all of a sudden are able to compete right at the top again. And maybe we get like Starcom or Rick Ware that pull out of the bottom basement and are actually able to compete. The reality is of the situation is that that's not going to happen. In this series, I was pleasantly surprised by DJ Kennington's speed. The second race, obviously, a little bit more than what we saw this time around. Obviously, with the mechanical issue that they had in the first race. But at least the bonus is that they were able to work on the car throughout the first race. Yeah, with your subscription. Yeah, I don't like that. I think we should be able to have it so that anybody can watch it. But this is the way kind of things are now. You have to have subscriptions. You have to have an ability to do so. So, and it sucks. I don't know how long the stream went for, Maddie. Did they take a break? Because I would have expected they would have had a bit of a break for the 3-hour rain delay. But yeah, remember, guys, keep your eyes peeled on the 84 and the 98. You'll see our Stickers and Scuffs logo actually ended up being on the car. It's on the lower quarter panels, not the quarter panel, the one in front of the tire. But Larry Jackson and Chantal Kalika were kind enough to do that, and it was awesome experience for us to be able to say we're on a race car, and then to have it on 2 race cars is even cooler. I know Matty Scannell was asking about getting on his car for this weekend, or I guess this upcoming weekend at Trois Rivières. I don't think that's going to happen though. He's supposed to drive for Larry Jackson this weekend, so that'll be very exciting to see Matty on track again, Matty Scannell. And man, it sucked seeing Trayton have to make his way back up to the field, but I think a pissed off driver is way more fun. And what I mean by, like what I said earlier, like Ranger is wasn't as fast. I'm used to seeing Ranger dominance, and he just wasn't dominant. Why? Motorsports as a hobby is very expensive now. No single network has the rights to the series you want to follow. Unfortunately, you're absolutely correct, and that it's an awful kind of business now, because there is no such thing. They should bring a NASCAR track back to West Virginia. Is Well, yeah, Maddie, we're not just giving those away unless you're a race team. But because we had to pay for them, right? So it was not cheap to get those made. But we is South Boston, isn't that in Virginia? Because I would definitely be going to South Boston again. That would be one hell of a track to go. There's a bunch of them that the series used to go to, and they just don't anymore. Yeah, I sucked for Rinamato. He tried to stop and had no chance of making it. Now, who got into Gannett? It was Dilly. Yeah, unfortunately, White Motorsports got involved in both ways for that. Oh, from that angle, he kind of dumped him. And we were amazed with was Chantal Kalika missing like every wreck that was in front of her. She had a ton of them, unfortunately, that she had to avoid. Second race as well, she had to avoid quite a bit of calamity. And this isn't it. Like, there's still more that's happening. It would be sellout crowds if they bring it back to West Virginia. Listen, Skins, as I said before, I don't understand NASCAR's thoughts of why you would want to go to a huge track and see the stands not even close to half full, rather than go to, say, a short track in West Virginia and pack the stands, because that looks way better on TV. If you go back to those early, when I first started watching NASCAR in 2002, 2003, you go watch a Bristol race, and that crowd is packed. That looks amazing on TV. Even the Pinty Series race here, it's not packed in the stands. VIP area is absolutely packed, but I mean, that's just the reality of it now, is that racing is just not going to be for everybody. Now, 20 laps to go. The pass for the win here. Here it is. Well, it wasn't really. I don't know. It looked like it was 3 wide to us, but wasn't really a 3 wide pass there. Now, Lassard, man, when he took the lead, there was a lot of cheers for that. 18 to go here. I want to be honest with you guys. This is not even close to what it's like actually being there. I mean, I was so impressed with Shea Gemmell too in that 8 car. So impressed. His very first event. Make sure you watch this 3 car though, if you're watching along, because there's interesting stuff that happens with him at the end of the race with him in the 22. I feel like Shepard goes around, but I can't remember who gets into him. Oh, there it was. It was Lacroix. Yeah, he got hooked. So Gemmell and Tag get together, and yeah, Lacroix just dumped him. But again, we've talked before with these guys, with these drivers, it's not as easy to be fair, he's not going to lay off on the brakes with 14 to go.
Absolutely right. So Shepard lives to fight another day. He'll join the tail of the field. A little bit of a cleanup for some.
There was a lot of anger.
Laying out around the track. There is Dave White, car owner on the 80, and several others
One of the things we could save from last year is that Dave White and his whole organization, the 80, they were so fast with Donald Teage, and they just had the worst luck. And mechanical failures and so on and so forth. So this would be a huge effort for him this season. If Dilly's going to have a more successful season, he didn't really have the best race. Obviously, you've got to talk about TJ Renamato, typically running at the back, but he looks way more up to speed this year than he has previously. So they look much faster. And of course, Rafael Lessard is, I mean, that's huge to have him in the series, and that he's going to be a 12 Riviere as well. And I was pulling, man. Gemmel was so close to getting up on the podium in his very first event. Tag gets by there. There's Lacroix. I think you're going to see Cameron have issues with somebody again. I'm not sure who it was. I think it might be Taylor that he has issues with, or if it was Dilly. I know somebody gets into Taylor for sure towards the end. Yeah, I know. I remember. Yeah, Taylor getting into the wall, then Cameron gets into Lapsevich, and then gets into Taylor again. There's Gannett. I'm pretty sure it's Cameron that gets into a bunch of people. I think it's, yeah, because now I'm seeing Cameron ahead. I think it's Dilly that gets into him. There we go. It was such a thrill. Awesome to see. And there's contact at the end here. There's, yeah, how happy Donald Teage is. It was awesome to see Donald. He was so happy. They didn't show the contact between Taylor, but yeah, he had some contact there. Interesting enough that they didn't park the top three on the front stretch. They only had Lessard. And there's Caitlin Patrick walking by. Yeah, Cameron. There's Cameron and Gemmel. Love it. Absolutely love it. Gannett also in the second race. I don't know if they'll show it because they weren't near him when it happened. Obviously, there's a lot that happens in the second race. The second race, there's some stuff that happens in Victory Lane. So not gonna, talk too much about that, but definitely the second race, I didn't see who it was, but Gannett gets out of his car and he's flying towards whoever was parked in turn 1 and 2. It was either Lacroix, it was Taylor, it was Cameron, Lapsevich, Shepard, or Ranger. It was one of those guys, and he came flying. This is my first time watching Canada Cup. Are they going to broadcast all the races, or is it exclusive? So, Huawei, thank you so much for joining and watching the Canadian series, the NASCAR Pinty series. So what's going to happen is there are going to be live broadcasts of the actual race the day it happens. These are replays. They typically will show the replay a week after. It's about a 1 hour tape delay. Typically, it happens before the NASCAR Cup Series event. But as far as we know, all of the events are going to be live streamed on tsn.ca or on MAV TV if you have MAV TV. You can definitely check them out there. On TSN, you do have to have a subscription to TSN, so you have to have either Bell or Rogers or be connected with them. And Maddie's providing you the schedule there. It's got all the details in terms of what races they're going to broadcast. If you have the ability, though, come on out and see them. There's some races at CTMP, which is in Bowmanville, Ontario. If you're going to watch some in Quebec, there's countless races in Quebec at Chaudier, Icar, and Trois Rivières. There's also towards Hamilton, you'll have Flamborough Speedway, and towards London is Delaware Speedway, which is the finale. Obviously, it just depends where you're located. But Raphael Assard, man, he was pumped up. We got to talk to him before the race started, and he was ready to go, man. He was good. I wonder what they'll do. I don't understand though, Canac not coming to sponsor him in this series. Like, you sponsor him in the truck series, but not. There's Tony Spiteri from Pinty's. Ashley McCubbin is there. Greg McPherson as well. I think our Stickers and Scuffs crew, you might be able to see them. Stickers and Scuffs crowd hanging out by the fence. Probably can't see them from here, but awesome to see them. I'm going in person to some of the Southern. You're going to enjoy them. Why? They're going to be a lot of fun. There's Tony Spiteri from Pinty's. Sherry Putnam is there, the series director. And Donald Teach, how happy I am to see Donald Teach get a win. Injured, unfortunately, in the off season. So Lassard, Ranger, Tagliani, your podium. Lacroix, Gemmel in his first start finishes 5th. LP Dumoulin, Cameron, Gannett, Dilly Shepard, Kalika with her very best results, 13th. Unfortunately, Dexter Stacy, you wouldn't see him in the second race.
Seriously, it's been a tough race with Pete and nice fight with Raphael. My car, the 59 car, was pretty fast.
Man, Andrew looks just so happy to be there. It's so nice to see him wearing his Avion Motorsports suit. He doesn't actually have a Pinty suit yet, so. And you got to wonder, guys, if Raphael is still in the points lead after 3 races. Do they try and see if they can keep him full time for the year and potentially win the championship? I mean, obviously, if there's an option to, I would definitely hope that they do that. Once again, another great production by Joel Robinson and the entire TSN crew. Obviously, you've got to thank them. Kendra Adams, Todd Lewis, Adam Ross, Dave Bradley, Clinton Jeffrey was behind the scenes for a lot of it. And Sunbelt Rentals is a sponsor. Interesting. I think we could see Drew Dollar then in this series at some point. There's Tony Spiteri with Raphael. Awesome. God, these cars are so sexy, man. They are so beautiful. Yeah, so there's a lot. So Maddie, there's a lot that kind of happened. Fuel Media Lab, guys, fantastic effort. Awesome to see that. So we got about half an hour until the Cup Series pre-race starts, and then the actual race. Probably going to be watching the IndyCar Series as soon as that starts at Nashville. But yeah, Matt. So the Mopar suits is probably because the deal with Rick Ware was so late. They didn't really know. So a lot of that sponsorship deal, as you saw, they were going to have Nurtec, their sponsor that you see in the Cup Series, their sponsor from down south. They were going to be that primary sponsor, but they're not allowed in Canada to promote that. So, yeah, we we're very happy to have Rick Ware, but obviously they had to go with their alternative paint scheme, and I guess you're going to see a lot of that there. DJ's not he's not going to go out and buy get all this stuff made if he doesn't have to. There's nothing wrong with those Mopar suits unless Mopar doesn't want them to hold them. But interesting that they say I saw Sunbelt Rentals as a sponsor, because that's they are, Matt, that's completely DJK's team. None of those, as far as my understanding is, none of those guys for Rick Ware are Rick's own people. It's all DJ. So essentially what you've essentially got 3 DJK cars full time. Essentially you've got the 27 is now the 51, the 28 is now the 52, and then DJ's own car. They're just now under that different umbrella. But we had to Trois Rivières. It's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen at Trois Rivières, because there's going to be potentially another 5 to 6 cars in the field. I don't think we'll see Weller. I'm pretty sure you're not going to see Kalika. But you're going to probably see the 04. JF Dumoulin's going to be there. You're more than likely going to see another car present. That means LP said in a post that he made the other day on WeatherTech Racing's YouTube channel that there's another car that they're working on. I could expect to see maybe JF LeBerge is going to run that car, because they already announced that he was going to drive the 80, but then they announced that Raphael was going to drive the 80 with Napa, which is huge. Like, people don't understand, like, Napa Autos Parts coming to this series is huge. So we need more. Like, people need to keep pushing the series. They need to keep trying, coming out like YY, coming out and catching a race or 2. Even if you're going to Flamborough, you can catch 2 races. Delaware is going to be a championship weekend event with the APC Superstocks, the Quick Superstocks and the APC Late Model Series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So definitely make sure you guys go out and attend for those. But other than that, what you can do is do exactly what Matt said he was doing, which is watching the live stream. That's something that you got to do to continue to support the series. Go out and buy the products and help try and get more attention to the series, because if we can get more companies and more sponsors interested, that's really what we need. So we're going to wrap it up here for the NASCAR Pinty Series, Frontline Workers 125 watch along. KMK here. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and share it. We need more fans here. Continue to talk about the NASCAR Pinty Series all season long. We will be back next weekend. We won't be covering the Cup event because it's NASCAR Pinties or nothing. And 2:18 is the green flag time, which is a little odd, but that's what the schedule is listed as. So we'll be back. Obviously, we'll have a preview show. We'll talk about that when we get a little bit closer to knowing who is for sure going to be on the grid. We do expect, like I said, we're going to probably see there's going to be over at least 20 cars, which is great. If we get 23, 24, maybe even 25, I think the max you'd see is like 26. I don't know if we get any much more than that. But the fact that we're getting any cars this season is fantastic. If you can make it out to the track, go to Trois Rivières, enjoy it. It is one of the biggest facilities that we go to, one of the best events that we go to. It's like the crown jewel this year with no Jukasa, no Toronto. So definitely make sure you guys go out there. And we hope to be at the track at CTMP at the beginning of September, hopefully be at Flamborough and at Delaware. So we'll definitely see you guys all then. If not, we'll thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Sunday here for the NASCAR Pinty Series live stream at Trois Rivières.